gospel, light up the tempo. Short swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Blackberry, oh, the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Dave One, and this is episode number... Yo, Cam, what episode is this? 87. So we're just moving along here, Cam. Getting to 87. I think we have over 100 episodes, right? With the remote episodes, and we're just chugging along here, man. Great job. It's good to have you back, Cam. You know what I mean? I mean, you had a few misses there where we had to have somebody fill in for you. You know what I mean? And so, but you were here the last podcast with Lepke. Yeah. It was a fun podcast. Very interesting. Very amazing. Very interesting. Very good podcast. Glad to finally have met him and reeled him in. If you watched the last podcast, you know what I'm talking about. You know, so shout out to OG Lepke, doing good. He's over there at in Long Beach, going to church with his wife. So thank you, Lepke, for coming out. And thank everybody for tuning in. Hey, listen, we're trying to get those subscribers up. So if you can, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Street Gospel Podcast, Street Gospel TV. Make sure you go in there and you subscribe. We really appreciate that. And subscribe on your apps for podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you go in there, subscribe, leave us a good message. But we really want you guys to subscribe and share. Make sure you guys share. But today we have somebody that has filled in quite a few times on the podcast. Well, not quite a few times. She's been here a couple times on the podcast as a guest. She's the executive producer of the show, and she filled in for Camo when Camo had a hot date or when Camo had to work, one or the other, right? But I want to welcome her back to the Street Gospel Podcast, my wife of almost 30 years, man. This is wild. 30 years?
Gang, gang.
Dang. We've been together for 32 years. Dang. Time flies. But I want to welcome to the podcast my wife, Miss Malisa Arebalo.
Hi, love.
What's cracking?
Nothing much. Here again.
You always get a little embarrassed when you come on the podcast. Why?
I don't know. This is weird.
You see me every day.
I know. This is. I swear. You would think I'd be used to it. How many episodes is this? 3 that I've been on?
Yeah, you Thai taco god.
I get a little nervous.
She Thai taco god, Camo. You know what I mean? I mean, both really good guests. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think this is a good podcast to have you on. And once again, look at everybody. What do we talk about the most when you're on the podcast?
Marriage.
Me and Malisa have a ministry on the side that we do. It's called Marriage 100. It's through our church, but we do it for other churches also. And we go and we tell people about our life. We tell them about how they can improve their marriage. And it is not just people that are having a hard time in marriage. It's just people that maybe they want to get better or learn some techniques. And it's all biblically based. You know, the foundation is Christ. And how to love and respect one another.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So she's been doing really good with this ministry, man. A lot of women reach out to you and ask for help, and it's been really good.
It's a blessing. I mean, I love talking to women, and I love, I really, and this is not, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that. But I honestly really pray that God gives me wisdom when I speak to women. And it's nothing that I do or anything that I say, but I really, truly ask God that, because sometimes I can go off of my own feelings. I can, just kind of like maybe overthink, because naturally I'm an overthinker, but I really, truly ask God for wisdom in that area. And I love it. And I always think about all the women that were there for me, and I want to give it back.
That's amazing. I mean,
Don't look at your phone when you're talking to me.
Okay, okay, Cam. She doesn't understand how these things work, right? I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm adding music. I'm making sure the controls are good. So
I'm just saying.
I'm a great listener. Even though you don't think I'm a great listener, I am listening to everything.
Because I'm like faking it for the camera, and I'm looking, and
Yes.
you're not looking at me. You're looking down.
Okay, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that I have to do that with because that's just the way. That's just the way it goes here. I mean, I don't know why this is like some sort of mystery or something like that because I have things to do right here.
Okay.
I'm paying attention.
Okay.
Okay. And likewise, I like to help guys. You know what I mean? And I think we like to help them marriages because it wasn't always easy for us. So to give back a little bit, hey, let's help, other couples and let's see them flourish and thrive. And, the old adage, you learn from your mistakes or you can learn from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
So learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
And then you'll be doing good.
Yes.
Right. So what we've had people ask how we met and how we found love and our kind of our love story. So I was an innocent bystander and Melissa came and she swooped me up. She had a Raider jacket on and I was like, yeah, man, this is the one. And so, but she wasn't a believer. So I had to hold her off until she gave her life to Christ. Once she converted, then I was like, okay, I'll give you a chance. That's pretty much sums up our marriage, right? I mean, it's pretty, right? That's how it went down.
Okay. Now let's tell the truth.
I mean, pretty much that is the truth.
Okay, so now let's go to the real story.
The real story. Okay.
Okay. So I'm not going to go too deep or far back into anything because it'll be forever.
It's way back.
But we met at church. My parents got saved when I was 9 years old, turning 10, and we went to Praise Chapel, and that's where I met you. And we grew up in church together. I don't even think we talked to each other, right?
No. Not in those young.
No, right?
10 through like 13, probably never really paid attention. Just kind of went to church, and you had your friends, I had mine.
Yeah, you capped on me a lot.
I did not cap on
Yes,
you a
you
lot.
did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. So you would cap on me a lot, and you would say like little things and stuff like that. So I kind of,
Lies.
I did avoid you for sure because you were a little meanie. But anyhow, during that time, us growing up together, we were 10 years old, 10, 11, 12, 13. By the time 13 came around, you continued to serve God. I didn't. So I just kind of like rebelled out, I became, I don't know what it was. And I always tell you this is that I can't pinpoint something in my life, something traumatic, something, that happened to me that made me wild out other than I truly wanted to be a rebel. Like,
Yeah, you were a rebel, man. You were a rebel.
yeah,
I did like that part of you, though. It's kind of cool. You're still a little bit of a rebel in some areas,
yeah.
but most people would think that you're the nicest person in the world, which you are. But I did like when you were thugged out. I that was an attraction there.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it was. You're a little thugged out, and like I said, I did like the Raider jacket and stuff. I was like, okay, I can win this girl over for the Lord, and then we can get together. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
But I think, I was, in church and just, I wasn't the perfect kid, but I was a kid. We had fun and it was a good time. I was involved in church and in music in church and different ministries and stuff. And then, I would see you, and I don't think I ever talked. We still didn't really talk. I maybe said hi or something, but we didn't really talk, right?
No, there was one time we did talk.
We did.
Yeah, and that's when I think because I'm gonna be honest with you, I always just looked at you and just thought like, oh, he's Mr. Goody Good,
But did you think I was attractive?
Okay, wait.
Let's be honest here.
Okay, so
She has to be honest, Cam.
I thought you were cute.
Okay. Can you say that one more time?
Shut up. I thought you were cute. Obviously, I would never admit that to you because I just thought you were.
I knew you did because I saw the way you look at me, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, she's checking me out." Boom! I'll be right there with my Lakers starter jacket, be like, "Bam!" You looking at me?
Dad.
Being the Raider one.
Wow, this guy. I did think you were cute. Obviously, we didn't talk. You know, I had, you know, different set of friends than you. Even though we all grew up together, we didn't hang together. You continued.
Yeah, I only liked one of your friends.
Yeah.
I only really liked Gabby. I mean, she was always nice to me.
Sylvia.
Yeah, Sylvia was nice too. Yeah.
You know, we didn't like ever have a conversation. I don't think. I just think it was just like we just grew up in church. We just saw each other, capped on each other, messed around. I mean, I think that was it. But I think there was one time that that's when I think it changed for me. Was we were on our way to an outing. I think it was to go skate with the youth, and you had your Walkman on, and I said, "Oh, what are you listening to?" I don't even know why I asked you that because I don't even talk to you. And you said, "Oh, NWA." I was like, "What the heck?"
Church kid in the back of the church bus or church van. I'm listening to NWA.
I was like, "What?" Like, and I was like, "What song are you listening to?" And you're like,
I Ain't the One.
I Ain't the One. And I was like, that's one of my favorite songs. Like, right. So then after, I think you like gave me like your
that was the move
headphone.
Back in the day. You take off the headphones and you give them one. They're right there and you're listening together. So you're kind of sitting close.
Yeah, so you did that, and obviously I was rapping it or whatever. But I think that was the first time that I ever looked at you and thought you were a real person. Like, I think I always just looked at you like, you know, everyone always raved about little David Arebalo, you know, and how good of a kid he was. And, you know, not that you weren't a good kid, but I just think I have to be honest, I was intimidated by it.
I think I was a good kid. I didn't do bad things, but I had like to have fun and bag on people and do mischievous things. But I think compared to the people we were going to church with, like the parents and where they came from the neighborhood and gangs and drugs and, you know, prostitutes and all this crazy stuff in our church, right?
Yeah.
There was all kinds of...
It's crazy.
Right? Like you can't compare to that. No matter how mischievous you are, or throwing rocks or jumping on people's cars at church or whatever it may be, it never would compare to, you know, what those people came from. So
no, but the weird part about it is you are 100% right on that. Like, it didn't compare, but they assumed that kids that grew up in church were supposed to be perfect.
Right.
So then when you did have those kids that wild out, I was one of them. The church couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
It was just like so that's the part that kind of confused me, because you're right. These people came from some crazy backgrounds, and here we're, you know, like some rebel kids in church and tagging in the restroom, fighting in the hallway of the, you know, the breezeway, all those things. I mean, it was just part of growing up, especially growing up in that area, right? Because we grew up in the hood.
Huntington Park,
and we were surrounded by two gangs in that
so we had
neighborhood.
all kinds of wild people coming through.
So not only were we surrounded by two gangs in where our church was at, but then you had people that would bring in family members that were from rival gangs, and so it always went down, and it was always crazy in there, right? People with guns, fighting. It was wild, right?
Gang church.
gang, bro.
Wait, there was some good there. People did give their life to God.
Of course. I'm
okay.
just, of course.
Yeah, we were just gang banging in church.
Anyhow, okay, going back to, I think that's when I really thought, like, man, he's real. Like, he's a real person. And
I went to, you know, I was in a school that, you know, Nimitz Junior High. It was in the hood. I went to Bell High. I was in the hood. You know, I grew up in Bell Cudahy. Was it as bad as where maybe you grew up in? Probably not as bad, because you were like borderline, Walnut Park, HP, you know, what else? Watts right there. You know, you were more closer to that side. I was a little bit more, you know, closer to the 710, I guess. You know, a little bit safer, whatever. So...
yeah, but I think that's when I was like, wow, I looked at you a little different that day. And I think we kind of had, I don't know, sounds weird, but maybe a mutual respect for each other. And I don't think you bagged on me after that. I think we kind of stood cool with each other, you know?
Yeah, I remember staying nice to you and just saying hi. And sometimes you'd be at church, sometimes you weren't there. And then, you know, I was like, okay. And then I think you got saved, right?
So
Or what happened? Break it on down.
I'm gonna be a little vulnerable right now.
Uh-oh.
So I was wilding out, and you know, I hated authority, no matter if it was from my parents, people at church, my teachers, anybody. I hated authority. I wanted to be bad, and the people I hung out with were bad kids.
Some of them were on the podcast.
And I lined up running away. And coming from our church, everyone knew everyone's business. Everyone knew, you know, like what was going on. So me and one of my friends from church, we lined up running away. And one of them was my little boyfriend back in that time, you know. So I was like the people from our church like legit did an outreach to go and find me and my friend, right, that ran away. And we would hear about it. Oh yeah, they met up at, you know, Pacific, and they had, you know, did an outreach and they were looking for you and all these things, right? So coming back home, I was in trouble. You know, my parents, it was hard for them. I can imagine and embarrassment, right? Your daughter runs away with the boy and her other friend. I mean, I can imagine the embarrassment my parents had, right? But going back to church the first day, going back after I ran away from home, I mean, everyone thought I did the worst, right? I even had to talk to Pastor Neville, and he had to ask me some really hard questions, like, you know, like, did you do this? Did you do that? And I had to be honest with him and say, no, you know, I mean, again, I just wanted to do bad stuff, but genuinely at heart and who I was, like in the core of me, I was a good girl.
You wanted to do hood rat stuff with your friends.
Yes. So anyways, going back to church was so humbling and embarrassing, right? Everyone knew I ran away. Everyone assumed the worst of me. Everyone thought I was pregnant, like it's crazy stuff.
It was extreme. Very
extreme. And it made me have more of an attitude. You know, yes, was I embarrassed, and yes, was it a very humbling experience, but it made me want to rebel out more and be like, I was going to say F this.
Hey.
I was going to say, it wanted me to have the attitude of forget this, you know, like, Jesus. But I'll tell you one thing. One day we were at the conference. We had a conference at the East Los Angeles College, and I remember I was in trouble, so I had to stay right by my parents. I couldn't leave their site, so I didn't really get to talk to any of my friends or anything. And I remember asking if I could go to the restroom. And so, you know, I'm making like the excuse, oh, I'll go to the restroom. Maybe I could get to talk to, you know, my friends or whatever. Go to the restroom. I come back. No, none of my friends are out there. But I seen you. And I remember you looked at me and you just like, you just shook your head at me. You were just like if you were disappointed in me. It was weird. I don't even know if you remember that, but
I don't remember.
No. So you looked at me and you kind of like just shook your head.
God.
And you like I saw in your face like you were disappointed in me. And I'm not kidding you. I don't even know why. Like, I mean, we weren't close. We weren't even friends like that. But I don't know why, but it hurt me. And I remember being like, dang, like David thinks I'm a bad girl. You know what I mean? I'm gonna cry.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
It's all right, yeah.
And the reason it's because you were a good kid. And inside I knew that I didn't do anything wrong, you know, but everyone around me thought I did. So for you to look at me like that, I just felt like bad. And I remember just feeling like, dang, like he thinks I'm a bad girl, you know. So fast forward, going a little bit further, I just always had that jacket on me from everyone, right? Everyone just bad Malisa, you know, sorry. Dang. Bad Malisa, even when I try to do good. I mean, and I get it, you know, it's hard for someone to trust somebody when all they done is bad, you know. But I remember being at they asked me to go to a girls' youth service. And am I like going too deep into my story?
No, I'm listening.
Okay, because I'm like
part of our story.
Okay, so they invited me to go to this girls' service in San Diego, and I wasn't saved, but one of my other friends was going, and I was like, well, heck yeah, I'll go. Like, we just go and mess around or whatever. We go, and you know, I'm so used to everyone thinking I'm bad. I'm used to it, you know. I'm just everyone, you know, bad Malisa. So
you were bad though.
I know.
You was fighting and everything.
I know. I was bad, but
you had people coming to the church looking for you.
I did.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But I know what you're saying. You weren't bad in the sense of hoeing around and all that stuff or getting high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was in the sense of you didn't like authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you like to fight.
I did, and I wasn't afraid to fight.
Do you need tissue? Kim, can you grab her some tissue?
I wasn't afraid to. I didn't even think I would go here. I didn't even think this was going to happen, like especially on the Street Gospel podcast. This is crazy. But anyways, I go to this service, right? And I'm not thinking I'm going to get saved. Like, I already had told myself I wasn't going to get saved. And the speaker, she was really mean, like really, really mean. Thanks, son. And
bring a big old paper towel.
And I'll throw this one on the floor, sis. And I was mad. I was pissed at what she was talking about, like up there. And I wasn't even talking. I wasn't even being disrespectful, but she called me out in front of everyone there. And she said, hey, you in the back in the gray sweatshirt. Yeah, look at you. You think you're hard. Yeah, you're over there making fun of your friend that was up here giving her testimony. And honestly, I wasn't. Like, honestly, the person that gave the testimony that day, I was really proud of her. And she was a really cool girl to me. And I really liked her. So, I mean, we were just like, you know, being teenagers, laughing, whatever. She called me out in front of everybody. I wasn't having it. I was just like, nah. So I started cussing her out in church, you know, like, I know. So, I mean, I'm not kidding you. Every person was in shock. And I just think it was like, because she called me out in front of everyone. Now, if she would have came to me on the side and said, hey, what's going on or whatever, but you called me out in front of everybody. Like, so legit from my seat in the back row, I just started cussing her out. F you, who do you think you are? You don't know me. So my youth leaders just grabbed me, right? They just grabbed me and dragged me like outside. And what are you doing? You know, and all these things. And I remember like, no, F her, F that. Who does she think she is? You know, this crazy, you know, that's just how I was, you know? And so, I remember they were like, Malisa, like, no, you can't do that. That's a pastor's wife. And I'm like, yeah, she's disrespectful. How dare her, you know, call me out, Well, anyways, I said, I'm not going back in. And so they're like, you got to go back in. I was like, nope, not when she's preaching. So I was like, no, I'm not going back in. Finally, they had a second speaker. And I was like, they're like, come on, just go in. I was like, all right, well, the first lady's not talking, but I'll go in with this lady. I go in and I'm not kidding you. God touched me.
Man.
I don't know what, honestly, I can't even tell you what exactly she was saying, but God touched me. I went to that altar and I cried like I never cried before. And that was at the age of 16. And I gave my life to God and never been the same. But with that being said, is that even after getting saved, I still had that thing over me. People didn't believe I was saved. People, you know, I joined the choir, started dressing different. I mean, I was like trying my best. And, you know, parents were like, oh, you ain't hanging out with my daughter, you know, like,
it's crazy.
You're bad, you know. And so I carried that with me. So when you started talking to me when we were like, what, 16 years old?
I was 16 and a half,
16
maybe
and
right
a half.
there. You know what I mean? How to make some moves.
I'm dead.
Damn, they don't got moves where you come from, huh?
Sorry. Not in a million years would I think that you would like me. Like, not in a million years would I think that would even be a possibility. Because remember, I'm bad Malisa and you are good little David. Okay. So, it just happened. I mean, and that's how I know it was all God of us getting together, because there's no way that can happen. And, it's so weird because I always tell you this, that out of everyone, you truly believed in me, and you believed that I was saved, and you believed that I was genuinely a good girl. And all those rumors and everything that everyone ever said about me, you knew they weren't true. And I love you for that. And yeah, I don't know.
I love you too. I mean, I seen you and we would talk, and then we would have a good time, talk. And then we went to like a little church prom together. And then we were just friends, and I was like, hey, I really like her. Like we like the same things. We like sports. You know, we like the same music. You know, there was just things that I liked about you, and I really enjoyed talking to you. So I was like, I really like that.
Yeah. And
then I just felt in my heart like this girl would have my back no matter what, through thick and thin. I felt like if I get with this girl, she's going to have my back. And sure enough, I was right. You had my back ever since, you know, and believed in me even before I believed in myself. Right. And so we started dating and found love and got married super young. You know, you were 19, I was 20. We were, had a little apartment. I was working, you were working, and the rest is history basically. And that's kind of how we found love. I mean, I love you. I mean, this is the best decision I ever made. And it doesn't mean that our life has been perfect. There's been tough times, just learning how to love each other, just for me, maturing as a man, getting out frustration and, finding our careers, that took years, and to get things going. So through all of that, and other things, I think we made it through, and I think that's why we like to help people. We like to share our experience and realize that, hey, this is reality. This is not Instagram. This is not the perfect church marriage. This is not, this is hard work.
Yes.
This is years of putting in the time and the effort, and really saying if you love one another, you're gonna work hard for one another, and that's the thing. So I think when we when we talk about marriage, we take it very, very serious. You all right over there?
Yes.
Okay. We take it very, very serious because, it's important to us. And it means a lot to us. And we want to help couples. We want to help young couples. We see couples all the time, and we're like, yeah, they're struggling. I can tell, I wish they would just ask for help. We can help them, and God can help them, more importantly. But I think that's our love story. There's so many years after that, being together 32 years. I mean, that's the first part, but we made it this far. God's been with us. God's blessed us. God's helped us through thick and thin. And I think that over the years, we've truly loved each other, and that's what made us fight for one another. And so, I mean, we want to encourage other couples, like, hey, don't give up. Don't quit. If you love each other, fight for each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I think, because we grew up and made decisions different growing up in church. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing. We grew up in the same church, heard the same word, it's all like lives change and different things like that. And because we both went our separate ways, I think when we finally God put us together, I think that was great for us, because I think, it was truly showing God's glory, and like these kids that grew up, they didn't come from perfect homes, their parents didn't come from perfect homes, but their parents made a choice to get saved. Here these kids are, and look at them, look at where they're at, like I always think about that. Like, so if you're a parent out there and you're thinking, man, like my kid grew up in church, like there's no hope for them, or, like their future doesn't look good. I'm telling you, yes, it is, like no one believed that I think people believed that God can do something, but I don't think people believe that I would truly change myself. And I think that us being married, like you said, going to be 30 years, and everything that we've been through, I think that it shows God's glory, and it shows like what God can do, you know, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I went through all those things. And even though it was hurtful at the time, it made me stronger, you know, and who I am. And, you know, and of course, letting go of the rebel side and stuff like that. A little bit, you know, but you love that part of me, and I love you for that, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I'm very grateful God put us together. I'm grateful for all our experiences that have helped us to become stronger. Some of them were hard, some of them were hurtful, some of them were not easy to overcome, you know, but we've stayed faithful to one another. We stayed faithful to God, and we learned to ask for help at the right times when we needed help, and God has blessed us with 2 wonderful adult children, and you know, a good life, you know. And I'm not saying everything's perfect. There's still a lot of things that are, I ask God, you know, hey, what happened with this, you know, but I think overall, like, blessed, you know. And a lot of people get their marriage or their family or their life, and they say all the things they don't have, you know, and that's great, you know, but, you know, start marking down all the things you do have and the gratefulness that you do have, and how much better your generation or how you grew up is better than your parents. You know, we always talk about that a lot, you know, like, we're grateful for that, like, man, and the stepping stone we are for our kids to have a better life and better marriage, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
Right? I love you.
Yes, love you too. Sheesh, I look a hot mess now.
No, you look great.
Okay.
All right. So you guys, we everybody knows we get to the meat and potatoes of the marriage podcast, you know, the Marriage 100 podcast, I should call it, where we answer a few questions for everybody out there. So we got some good questions this time.
We do.
A little, some of them are intense, right?
Yeah.
Can you get your glasses on there?
Yeah, I need to put them on.
Slide them right in. There you go. So we're gonna answer a few questions out there, like, because we always like to answer these questions here.
Keep going. I
And
just have to put my glasses on
we'll put them on, girl.
so I could see.
You want me to put on a little bit of NWA real quick, or you good?
Hey, NWA got us together.
It's crazy, huh? Some ninjas with attitude got us together, man. Dang.
Right?
Oh, praise God for NWA, man. They need Jesus too.
No one go listen to that song. I ain't the one.
Yeah,
no.
don't listen to that song. You're not going to want to be together.
Oh, my gosh.
So you have a couple questions that got submitted, right?
I do. And again, we asked, you know, people if they had any marriage questions to ask. No names will be said. You know, and I'm truly grateful too that people trust us.
Yeah.
You know, it's
yeah, we don't take that lightly. Like, when people ask for help, and we don't just be like, oh yeah, we're somebody, we made it, blah blah blah, and like, we're honored to help people. Like, it's a blessing to help them. It's a blessing that people look for advice from us. Like, that's something we don't take lightly.
Yeah.
You know, we value them, because to ask for help takes a lot.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, that's huge.
Heck yeah. So I'm like, it's a blessing to me too. Like, you know, when women reach out and they, you know, say, I trust you, man, I don't take that lightly. You know, it's something that I really appreciate. So we do have a couple of questions, and we're not going to be able to get to all of them, you know, but I think we picked out some, like, the important ones.
Right.
So, okay. Well, some of them are on my phone, so.
I'll pull them out.
Sorry. Takes a while.
Yeah, and Camel's over there, you know what I mean? Thank God he got a little boot thing going on now, you know what I mean? Sorry, ladies. Cam's taken, you know. That's the way it goes. Somebody finally felt bad for him and said, I'll date you.
This guy.
I'm just playing. She's a very beautiful young lady with a great heart. And Cam is a very handsome young man with a great heart too. So they have a lot in common. So it's good to see them happy, serving in their churches, loving God, right? Hey, man, I'm giving Cam a shout out, man. Him and his girl.
Okay. Yeah.
You gonna edit that out?
Okay, so here's one.
All right, serious time.
Serious time. Okay,
right.
so this question says, it's a tricky subject, but any advice when your parents are your pastors trying to maintain, I think I might have wrote that because I'm like, wait, why is it not on my phone? I'm sorry. You're like, why are you not prepared? Here we go. I did. When it's a tricky subject, but any advice on when your parents are your pastors trying to maintain accountability, but also trying to set healthy boundaries so it feels like the lines can get blurred.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're married, young couple in the church, and one of your sides of parents are the actual pastors, and you're going to that church, it can work. Definitely could work, but there has to be boundaries, right? There has to be some sort of boundaries there. But who sets the boundary? The parents or the children? The parents and / pastors or the children? Who sets it?
You're asking me?
I'm asking.
Oh, I believe the parents have to set the boundaries.
Right.
Parents.
Healthy boundaries.
/ pastors have to set the boundaries. But if they're not, then the couple has to set the boundary.
Okay, so what comes first? Are you the parent or are you the pastor? This is for all the people out there. I know the answer, but what comes first?
Parent.
The parent. The parent comes first, right? I think the problem, maybe the person asking the question probably has, is the lines get blurred, right? You're my parent on Saturday, but when we go to church on Sunday, you're my pastor. And then you try to be my pastor on Monday when I'm, come over to visit. So I think the lines could get blurred right there. I think as the parent, you set the boundary, parent pastor, you set the boundary to say, okay, I'm their father-in-law, mother-in-law before I'm their pastor, right? And then you say there's certain things that we can discuss, and then there's certain things that you probably should take to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think if you said, it can work, right? And I think that if the parent / pastors, they're the ones that are going to have to navigate that, I feel, more than the kids that are there, right? I think they're the ones that are going to have to set the tone. They're the ones that are going to have to navigate all that. I feel, obviously you can't go to your pastor / parent for marriage advice. You can't, and I think too, even from I know Cam would go to you for man stuff, right? But then there's some things I think that Cam would have to go to someone else.
Right.
Right?
I would steer him in a different direction. Son, I love you. I can help you in this area. But maybe, son, you should talk to somebody else about this. You know what I mean? Right, where they can give you some more guidance, and then they could talk to you from an older brother, an older, disciple maker, kind of in a way that they can speak into your life. I'll always be your dad, and that's where I want to remain. But I don't want to be your pastor's son. You know what I mean? I can show you, I can help you in things of the Lord, but there might be some things where I feel hey, son, you know what? Let's talk to, David and Melissa over, that somebody like that. I think that's where the parents, pastors have to set the boundaries. Now, if the boundaries are not set by the parent pastor, and they keep getting crossed over in a negative way, right? In the way of, you're blurring the lines, right? When you're coming at them as a pastor point of view, and then it's very difficult to get together for family gatherings and things like that, because it's, maybe you just constant talk about ministry, or you constant talk about, what they're not doing in church, and it's just it gets old. I think it can go negative too. So if it's pertaining to the marriage and the personal stuff, you really have to separate the boundaries. And if the boundaries get crossed, then the couple has to say, okay, what are we going to do from here? for us, it was kind of one of those things where we were in a church and we kind of had to break away from the church for a little bit because to grow up. And too many people knew us, knew our background, knew our history, thought they can just butt in or talk to us whatever way they want because, we were always young in the church. And then you have to kind of break away from that. So I think sometimes you have to leave. I think sometimes we think that because that your dad's the pastor, you got to stay in the church forever. Sometimes it doesn't work. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you never could come back either, but sometimes you might have to leave just to kind of grow up. Yeah.
And I think too, the couple, like, you might feel like, man, I can't, I feel it's unhealthy. There's this like some, I need healthy boundaries. And, maybe as a pastor / parent, you don't know how to set them because you're like, well, that's my son or that's my daughter and they need to be accountable because, to certain things.
Because you could be extra hard on them.
Right? You know what I mean? And then it's like, then it maybe to the spouse, it might feel a little bit, uncomfortable or like, hey, wait a minute. Like, I know you're our pastors, but you're also my in-laws. And now I'm feeling a little uncomfortable here. I think then sometimes kids don't want to leave the church because they don't want to hurt their, the parents' feelings, but I think that sometimes it has to be done to maintain a healthy relationship, to maintain yeah, I don't want to hurt them, but at the same time, I want to save our relationship, and I think that it has to be a decision that you and your spouse would have to make. Where the pastor parent would have to understand, these are adult kids, and they're coming to us and they're saying, hey, like, we need healthy boundaries. I love you as my parent, as, my pastor, but I think that we need to go somewhere else so that, we can keep a healthy relationship with you. But I think that sometimes pastors / parents, they get it twisted and they feel like that the kids have to be at their church or they have to serve at their church. I've even seen where like, the pastor parent, they want their kids to be perfect because then, because we're the ones setting the example, like we're the pastors of this church. So my kid has to be perfect and my kid has to do this and that because then people are going to see and people are going to say, hey, well, how come they're living like that and they're pastors' kids? How does that happen? Hello, they're human. You know what I mean? But I've also seen where pastors / parents have let people from their church tell their kids stuff, and it's even adult children, like they're telling them stuff like, oh, hey, don't do this. Hey, why do you have that? Hey, why are you wearing that? Hey, this and hey, that. And that's the part where it becomes hard because it's like these church kids / pastors' kids, they have it rough. Everyone is looking at them. Everyone is seeing what they're doing. Everyone's making, and then as a parent, you're like, well, yeah, my kid I'm the pastor here, Right. And I think that's the hardest part. But if you are a pastor / parent and you're like, hey, my kids are adults, you know what? If someone has a problem with them of how they're living or whatever, you take that up with God. I don't give you permission to go and tell my adult child something because they're a pastor's kid.
Yeah, they're the pastor's kid, but they're not the church's kid.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's the hardest part of being a pastor's kid and you're going to your parents' church is that everyone's looking at you, But I truly feel that when the pastors / parent sets that tone, like, hey, I don't even do that to my own kid. I don't even do that to my adult child. Right. You're not going to do it either. Then, I think that's when it's healthy. You know what I mean? I think that when your parent / pastors, I keep saying that, so that sounds weird, but when they give you that freedom of knowing, yes, do you have to be accountable to everything in life? Yes, but it's healthy here, I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's I think one great example of that is, I think Uncle Woody, Pastor Woody, and Cousin Champ, I think he just loved him. He had his daughter that was in church helping him right by him and, at the apple's side. And then he had a son that was just rebellious, but he loved his son no matter what, just loved him. If he wanted to come to church, he'd come to church. He didn't come to church for years. Didn't want nothing to do with God, but he continued to love him. He didn't look at him as a pastor, like, I'm ashamed of my son. He was never ashamed of him. He just loved him, kept loving him, and kept loving him. Fortunately, Uncle Woody passed, but Champ saved because his dad always kept that connection to him. So it's a tricky thing that the pastor father parent role is hard. It's hard for some parents to separate that. One of the things is that, it's like you're our kid, so you got to be top notch. You got to be way up here, not make mistakes. And to an extent, yeah, but they're gonna make mistakes. They're kids, we're not all guaranteed to be saved 1,000% all the time, and things happen. But yeah, there has to be some healthy boundaries, and either the parents set them or the children have to set them.
Yeah.
And you have to be respectful of your spouse. It's a little bit harder if my mom and dad are the pastors, and then you're my wife, and so it can be hard on me, but it especially be hard on the daughter-in-law or the son-in-law.
For sure. And I think if it's causing problems between you and your spouse, I think it's a healthy choice to leave.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
If it's bringing some division between you guys, I think the best thing is to leave. And if you're a pastor/parent and your adult children want to leave, you have to respectfully give them your blessings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't make them feel bad.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just something like everyone has to do what is right for their own family. And I know a lot of times people think, oh, that's, what about this and what about that? Well, you don't live in that house. You don't know what's the best for them. They know what's best for them. They know that this has been, a rough situation in their lives. And so I think that, will it work if you have some
It
healthy?
could work.
Yeah, it can
It could
work.
work.
But if it's making you feel a type of way or whatever, and you guys have tried to talk about it and work it out, and it just seems to always be the same, I think it is healthy to leave.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Good.
Hopefully we answer. I always say that because I always get kind of nervous, like, oh man, I don't want to like ever miss a chance to give an answer, and then someone says, oh man, they didn't
tell me.
They didn't say it or I didn't fully understand.
Because some answers are not just yes, no, or do it, don't do it. It's just, it's a little tricky. You got to work on it.
So, yeah. Okay.
What else you got over there?
Alrighty. So, the next one is
somewhere in that book.
I'm telling you, I wrote some down and then I screenshot some others. So, I'm sorry. Okay. So, this one is from a younger couple, and they're just wondering, why do they seek approval from other relationships? I'm trying to break it down because it's pretty long, but I want to break it down. Why do they seek approval from other relationships? They find themselves offended or hurt when their friends are going through things but have no desire to take their advice. Especially for women, the wife may feel a little bit hurt when women her age don't go to her and seek her advice when she knows she's a good wife, when she knows she's a woman of God. And she wants to give that advice to them.
Are they young?
They're I guess her. This is their age group.
20s.
Yeah,
okay.
20s, late 20s. And so the person wants to know is that something they should be worried about? Is it something that because it does bother them, but should they let it bother them? Because it can be hard to find friends, I guess, in that sense.
So let's take it back. We had a lot of couple friends when we were in those ages that we hung out. Great friends, right? Friends we grew up with in church. They got married to, and some of them are still around. Some of them are, moved away. Things like that. Anyways, at that age, you're not really you're more peers. You're not looking at. I never looked at my friend as up here. Even for guys that I knew that were making more money than me, it was kind of we're on the same level. We're all trying to make it. We're all trying to survive. We're all trying to raise a family. We all had young kids. I never really looked at other people or try to say, hey, look at me. You know what I mean? It was kind of like we're all on the same level. So if they're out there and they're getting upset about people not approaching them for advice or not acknowledging them for a good marriage or a good home, that's fine. You know what I mean? Just keep grinding because people are watching anyways, right?
Yeah.
People are watching anyways. You're setting a great example. And later on down the line, as you mature a little bit more and as your friends mature more, then you start asking your friends for a little bit of advice or encouragement. You know what I mean? But at a young age in the 20s and you're a few years married, you know, it's nobody's really going to go to you. You know what I mean? I mean, even your peers are not going to go to you because out of pride or out of, hey, they're just my friends, right? That's how you think.
Yeah.
But as you progress and get a little bit older, you might have some younger couples that want to ask you for help. So yeah, don't let that bother you. It shouldn't bother you.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I mean, obviously we had a really rough time in our 20s, you know, being married. And I feel like I never, even though I thought my friends, some of their marriages were better than ours, or like, man, they seemed like they got it down, right? I never felt the need to go to my friends for advice. Now, would I go to vent? Yeah, I would.
Sure.
I would, right? You know, I'd go in and call, girl, you know, he did this or he did that. But I never called them or wanted any advice from them. I think if I did, I wanted it from a pastor or I wanted it from a couple that was older, you know what I mean? A couple that I looked up to, not meaning that I didn't look up to my friends and their marriage, because there was times when we were going through some really hard times and I would look at some of my friends and be like, dang, they look like they got it together. Like they look like, you know, like he's all in love with her and, you know, she's all in love. They don't even fight. And here we are all jacked up. That's what was going on in my head, you know? So as the woman of that question, I don't think that you should beat yourself up and think like, man, I'm a good friend and I can give some good advice. You know, why don't they look at me like that? Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Like you said, continue to grind, continue to work at your marriage. And you know what? You are going to have, actually, I truly feel if anyone does come to you, it's going to be later down the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I feel. And, you know, and the husband, just be supportive of your wife and continue to uplift her and say, man, you're a great wife. You take care of the house. You work a job. You take care of me. Like, you know, like, I think that's when it counts the most.
Yeah.
Not when other people.
Not seeking the approval of other people. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But honestly, in the end of the day, just me and you, baby.
Yeah. That's what matters the most. And again, are you grateful that you are able to give advice? Of course. But don't beat yourself up.
That time will come.
Yeah, it will come. You're young still. You're still young, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 20s, you're
way young.
Really young, yeah.
Yeah. What else you got there? That magic book.
Magic book. The next one, I should have been more prepared, but it was a little rough trying to get out of work and then do all this. One of the questions was, never did I think it would be so difficult to come to an agreement on finances. The disagreements were so few in the beginning and now seem like they're every other week. Finances is sometimes super big.
One of the biggest.
In, you know, a marriage. And I think that in the beginning, you know, you're just starting out. So you're just like, you know, you're so oblivious to some of that stuff. And then when it truly comes down to the nitty gritty, you're like, dang.
What the heck did we do?
Yeah.
I think one thing we tell couples is, have you talked about this? Mm-hmm. Right? You talk about, do we have enough money to move into this apartment or this house, right? Do we have enough money to survive? You don't really talk about the responsibilities. Okay. Yeah. And I think that's one of the main issues. I'm not sure on the exact issue of that, but finances is huge. So you gotta work this out before you get married. Let's say ideally, right? Ideally you work it out before you get married. So who's the breadwinner? Right? Mostly it's the man, but the woman could be making more than the man. That's fine too. Like, is the man expecting the woman to work forever? That's something you have to talk about, right?
Yeah.
What's the game plan? Is somebody going to school while we're getting married and working to get a better career? Are we both set in our careers? And then you say, okay, who's in charge of the finances? It's very difficult to sit down, the both of you, and say, and try to balance a checkbook. Sometimes there's one that's better than the other. Who's better at the finances, right? And we had to work on that too. There was a time when I'm just, paying all the bills, and then something would come up, and I'd be like, oh no, I didn't budget for that. And you're like, well, so now it's like, here's some cash. You take care of this portion. I'll take care of this portion. Something comes up, give me a heads up a few weeks ahead of time if we need some money for this or that. And then you have your emergency stuff too, right? And you save some money for that. But it all has to be dialed in, and you have to really sit down and say, okay, what's going on here? What's working? What's not working? Might have a spouse that overspends and it doesn't keep to the budget. You have to stick within the budget. And sometimes it's just acknowledging it, getting it on paper, saying who's responsible for what, and then going forward. But finances will kill you. And a lot of it's spending, too much spending.
Yeah. And then, nowadays the cost of living has went up. So I think everyone is kind of like
feeling the squeeze.
Yeah, feeling the squeeze and feeling a lot of different financial pressure, So that's a big one too, with the changing of times and the economy and all that stuff. But if you guys are fighting like every other week, then I think it's something that you should sit down and talk about. And if you can't get it together, like just with you two, because I truly feel like as a couple, financial stuff you can actually do yourself and handle yourself. If it's something different, then you're gonna have to like seek out some help. You know what I mean? But if it's becoming such a problem where you guys try to come together, then you can then I suggest you go and seek out help for financial stuff.
There's a lot of people that are great at finances out there.
Yeah.
People are really embarrassed to talk about finances. We were, a lot of us came from just families that were poor at one time, and it's very difficult. So sometimes you might have to go and talk to somebody that's good at finances, see how they manage it, give you some advice, and then you can be better for your home, and your kids can be better when they start out. I think that's a good point, because we do need help in that area. Nobody shows us that stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody showed us any of that stuff. We were trying to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to ask somebody that's been around a little bit, hey, how'd you do this? Or what's your suggestion on this? Or how can we do this? And you'll get some great insight on it. A lot of times, though, people are embarrassed. Or they do things the way their parents did them. It's you got to change the way sometimes.
Yeah, and then being embarrassed too is like don't even worry, because trust me when I tell you, everyone's had a struggle.
Yeah,
we would have to make our week stretch with $20, and it would be like, we have $20. We're young, we're in our 20s, we want to go get something to eat. What do we do? And so
it's rough,
right? So there has been times where
ramen
and
top ramen,
just tortillas, cheese, and beans.
Quesadillas for the week, man.
But then there's going to come a time where you're going to look back. So this couple that asked this question, you're going to look back one day and be like, man, some of and during that time our finances were a little rough, but what? Look at where we're at now. And finances are not going to even be an argument anymore. I don't think we've argued about finances in a long time. We've argued about other stuff.
No,
But finances, I think you kind of get
takes a little bit to learn, and you got to be willing to change your ways and to learn a little bit and to get on the same page of what your goals are.
Yeah.
And really quick before we get to the next question, if you're young out there, if you're a believer, if you love God, I want to encourage you that if God can provide for the children of Israel in the desert, He can most definitely provide for you.
Amen.
So when everybody, it is feeling the squeeze right now, but I don't want young people or young couples out there to feel discouraged.
Yeah, that's true.
And God's going to bless you. God's going to provide for you. You stay faithful, because it doesn't say in the Bible that, the economy is going to dictate how the Lord's going to bless you, right?
That's true.
It doesn't say that. It says that He will provide. And if you acknowledge him in all your ways, you know, he's going to make your path straight. Sometimes we get caught up and we look at the world, the world economy through our fleshly eyes. And sometimes we got to look at them through our spiritual eyes and say, hey, if God can do that for them, he can do it for me. If God can provide for the children of Israel, he can provide for me. If God can make things happen, if God can open up doors for good jobs, he can do it. So don't get discouraged out there. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Elevate Ministries. Elevate Ministries is an authentic, passionate, and innovative church in the heart of Orange County, California. They strive to make their services welcoming and encouraging by intentionally engaging you in all senses to stimulate a spiritual hunger. If you're looking for a great church that's on a mission to change the world one person at a time, I encourage you to check them out at www.elevateministries.com and on Instagram at Elevate Ministries.
Amen.
Amen, sis.
Sis. Okay. Okay, the next one is huge body changes which affect life after the first baby.
Boom. Like the husband blows up or it's the dad bod?
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer for the guy?
I think we had talked about this one time, and I think that we could kind of repeat what we said, but then maybe you want me to start, you to start.
Okay, I think for the guy, if some guys go into shock, your wife has in our case, 10-pound baby, right? Big old head over there, right? And I remember when you had both our kids, I don't know what it was. I thought you were more beautiful than ever. I didn't have no problem with you say it was a lot of extra weight. I was just like, I thought you looked great. That's just my opinion. So I loved you either way. Okay, you know that's true. I you know that's 1,000% true. That's one thing I did that was right. Okay, so I didn't matter, but it bothered you, right? And I remember it constantly bothering you. You're like, man, I'm overweight. What's going on? You've always been a very slim woman, and so I'm like, and I was like, what? Like, okay. Like it didn't bother me. It was just like, and you would get really bent out of shape about it. And then I remember one day I just told you, hey, you know what? You're young. I think, how old were you back then? 23 years ago, maybe like 26.
After I had Cam, 26, yeah.
Right? And I was just like, you were complaining one day, and I was like, hey, then do something about it. I was like, you're young. What's stopping you? And you just, and I don't know how the Lord gave me those words, right? Because it's very, you have to say it with a great attitude. You have to say it in a loving spirit. But I think because I just loved you all that time through Ash, you having Cam, I think I was just like, I loved you, and I didn't. There was nothing negative to say. So I just loved you, encouraged you, and then boom, like you just like miss exercise and cut out soda and all this other stuff, and I think that's a good thing from a husband's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that sucks is that when we've heard this is where a husband will make a comment and say something. And I'm telling you, all you husbands out there, even the littlest comment is going to stay in her mind. So, she's already feeling bad about her body. Your body goes through a lot of changes. Some women don't. Hey, man, that's great. That's awesome. Some women can stay a size 2, 4, or whatever and they're good, but some women don't. And if she's already feeling bad about her body, after you have a baby, you don't feel sexy. You don't feel sexual. You feel like your body. You go through so much, not only physically but mentally too.
Yeah, those kids suck.
women go through a lot, bro. Like, it's crazy. But anyhow, so, you know, she's already going through something. But if you're supportive, like you said, it helps out so much, you know. Like, then she only has, I mean, just to be honest with you, she only has her own feelings to be inside of her head of how she feels. But if the husband says even the slightest little thing, that's a game changer. You are the most dumbest dude around.
Dang.
Let me tell you, because now you getting sex is going to be very slim.
Oh, so you're going to withhold sex?
Not that you're going to withhold it.
Like, well, why would you want to give it up to a guy that's putting you down?
Because
right?
when you don't feel sexy, well, how the heck are you going to have sex if you don't?
And meanwhile, half these dudes have the dad bod.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is it okay for you, homeboy? You know what I mean? Keep yourself in shape, G.
It ain't like you're over there God's gift to women or something. Like,
yeah, man.
Chill, bro.
You didn't have a kid.
For real.
You had a couple hamburger specials.
So what I'm saying is that, like, you're dumb. Like,
right.
You're truly an idiot if you think that you can say even if, I mean, sometimes I hate to
encourage your wife, man.
I hate to say this, but sometimes some dumb things come out of the mouth
of men.
And yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so
men are clueless sometimes.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll be honest.
So sometimes they even think that they're saying it to help out, or
right.
you know, or like give some encouragement, and it could be a really bad thing sometimes. So you're really gonna have to ask God to give you wisdom, especially after your wife has had a baby. Ask God to give you wisdom and think before you speak. Think before you speak. She's already going through a lot. Give your wife some time, even if it sucks, because maybe she's not going to feel sexual for a couple of months after, you know, like, give her some time, you know. And as a wife that is going through that, I can fully speak on this, is that you have to be kind to yourself. You know, you have to, like,
you be patient. You
have to be patient with yourself. You know, you can't go on some crazy, you know, overnight diet and think that that's okay for your health and all this stuff. But be kind to yourself, and think of it like this. Say, you know what, if I have to do it with the lights off, and you know, and for a while, you know, so he won't look at my body because I'm a little insecure right now, then do that, you know. Like, but I do think that, you know, like, you should keep a healthy sex life, you know, just for you and your spouse, because it does bring you guys together. And so, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully we answered that one.
The next one is, sorry, love, I should have had this together, and I didn't. He's like, whatever. Okay, so the next one is, how do you help support your husband in learning to be more of a leader in the family without showing frustration or getting frustrated in the process? Yeah,
there's a lot of husbands that don't lead. But I do believe that the wife could help him lead, right? I think the first thing the wife should do is, of course, pray. Give it to God and ask her to help her husband to become a leader. Secondly, after that, I think you express the areas where you would like to see your husband lead. It's a very tricky conversation, but you have to make some suggestions, right? Can you lead in this area? I'm doing this over here. I'll lead here, but can you lead in this area, right? Sometimes men have to have some direction, right? If the wife sometimes don't say something, the men think that he's doing a great job. She didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So something has to be communicated. Then for the wife, I think she has to allow the guy to lead. And this is hard for some women because they're like, we're kind of not going in the direction we should be going in. And I'm not talking for crazy important things, right? I'm talking like, let him lead in some areas. And then if he makes a mistake, God is gonna let him know. You don't have to let him know. He's gonna realize like that wasn't a good move for the family. And I'm not nothing catastrophic, right? I'm talking like you're gonna have to let him lead in a few areas. So pray about it, express it to the guy. like where you need him to lead at. If he's failing in some areas where he's just not doing a good job, and then allow him to lead, and then allow him to make a mistake. And I always believe that the man will see it and go, I screwed up. But his wife is still supporting him. And he'll make the change with God kind of revealing those things to him. I think that's great for that. I think you had something that you said earlier.
Yeah. And you have to support your husband as a wife during that process, because he is going to make some mistakes. And there's going to be times when you're going to be like, I mean, what the heck? You know, you're supposed to be the leader of this family. What happened? What did you do? Or why did you do this? You know what I mean? And so during the process of learning to be a leader, your husband being a leader and being the covering for your home and for you and over your marriage and your little family and all these things, you have to give some grace, because he is going to make some mistakes.
He's learning too.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't have a father, so he's learning how to become a father, a husband, a leader in his home. And that could happen. It might take him a little longer. He might be behind the curve because he didn't have that exampleship. But you have to express to him those things where he needs to lead in. And I think the wife is 100% his cheerleader, right? But she's going to cheer him when he's winning in the game, and she's going to cheer him when he's losing in the game to help keep him motivated to get on track. Now, if the guy is just not leading and he's consistently not leading, and he's consistently leading in the wrong direction, then you might have to have a pastor step in or ask your husband and say, hey, maybe we should go get, some direction, some counseling, because I feel there's some areas we lack in. But I think most men will respond. I hope.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It might take them some of them longer than others, but
yeah.
But
I think it's hard too when you are naturally a go-getter. Like, let's just say the wife is just a go-getter, right? And she just does this and she just does that. And then the man, it's not that he doesn't want to be a leader, but he's like, oh, she's great. Like, she just handles everything. You know what I mean? And it kind of like, it
rocks the guy to sleep, because he's like, oh, she takes care of everything. I just go to work, come home, and everything's done.
Exactly.
So yeah, we have to ask. As men, we should ask, is there any part where I'm lacking?
Yes.
What do you need anything from me? Like,
yes.
Am I not providing something? That's a hard question for men to ask, because they don't want to know the answer to that question. But I think just because the wife is a go-getter and out there and she's taking care of everything while you're gone, paying the bills, going to the grocery store, watching the kids, sending off the rent, mortgage money, whatever it may be, she's taking care of. There's women out there like that, but the guy is going to have to lead. And he could be a strong, silent type leader. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And she can be the go-getter a little bit more. But as far as spiritually, as far as how you want to raise your children, the guy's got to be actively involved in that. And he's got to lead.
Yeah. And women love that. And I don't care you
tell
are.
us about that. Tell us about that.
Women like a strong dude that is going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to handle this. Like, is
she willing? Like, if he's strong, is she more willing to give it up to him?
Sex? What are we talking here? The leadership role or sex?
If he's leading and doing what he's supposed to do, she's more easy.
What? More easy. Bro, this just took a turn.
Well, sis.
Oh my God. Okay. This dude. Anyhow.
She's gonna respect him more. I'm just messing around.
What I'm saying is that a woman loves that. Like, when a man, you know what I mean? Like, just to be honest with you, especially spiritually, like how can I say it? Like, if you're a man out there and your wife is the spiritual covering, and you're saved, right? You're saved, but your wife is the one that says, "Hey, let's pray." Your wife is the one that says, "Hey, the devil's
we're going to church."
Yeah, no, we're going to church,
right.
Or you know what, the devil's been attacking us. We're going to fight right now. Like, if the wife is the one that's doing that, and the husband's just like, "Okay, yeah, she needs you to be the one to step up spiritually,
right?
Just like you would have to be the one that step up if something went down, on the streets or something like that. I always think streetwise, but
you're a gangster, fool.
It's so stupid. But what I'm saying is that, you know what I mean? Just like you would be that covering for her. Spiritual wise, I think every woman wants that. Like, I know, like, it brings me so much comfort knowing that, like, spiritual wise, I know that you're going to be the one fighting on your knees. Not that I'm not doing it, but you're going to be the stronger one. You're the one that's going to always be like, hey, no, I got this, like covering us and our marriage and our home. Like, every woman wants that. And like you said, if your husband is not in certain areas, because it could be he's not the leader spiritually. It could be he's not the leader financially. It could be in different areas.
Emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
You hear a noise at night, or
we talked about
and
that last time.
The wife gets up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be all that. The husband leads. It doesn't mean he's the head. It doesn't mean that the wife can't lead in other certain areas. Of course, maybe she's better at finances and she's leading in that. But you're still the head of the home, and you got to put the covering over. Yeah.
And if you talked about it and nothing's happening, seek out the help.
Yes, again.
I know we say this all the time. We have this podcast, and I'm practically begging people to go reach out for help, but you have to. And even therapy. Sometimes people are afraid of that. Sometimes you need therapy. You need to go in and get some help, especially and I can only say this because I'm a person I'm an overthinker. I'm always in my head about something, and I never knew how to navigate that, right? So it'll always mess me up all the time until I realize, okay, this is part of who I am. Let me, I wouldn't have never known that if I would have not have sought out help, Right. I think sometimes we think as believers, I don't know how to say this without it sounding wrong. Well, take it to God and pray. Yes. But God has also put people in positions to be there for you, to try to help you out, to get it out of you. So then that way they can help you out through different tools and steps that you can do to because God's going to do his part, but faith without works is nothing. So God does his part. Now you got to do your part. And getting help is one of them.
I love that.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Good stuff?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so I'm so glad I have my glasses on because last time it was so terrible.
I remember you squinting.
Yeah.
Squinting.
Okay, so I think this one, there was one I wanted to save for last, but I think there's two other ones that kind of are attached to it. So I'll just read the two, or how do you want me to do that?
No, go ahead. Okay.
I
think I know where you're going.
So one of them said, how to overcome infidelity.
Okay.
And then the other one was how to move forward in your marriage effectively and extend forgiveness, grace after your partner hurts you while you are still feeling your feelings and processing them as well.
Yeah, I had one like that too.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
with forgiveness and
okay.
You got something?
Well,
go ahead.
That's the thing. I don't know if this one should go in there too. It says, how do you trust your partner again when you have found hurtful things on their phone? How do you support? Oh yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So it's I think it ties in all together.
So we're talking about when you hurt your spouse and how to forgive and how to move forward.
Yes.
Forgiveness. Let's talk a little bit about forgiveness. So I think as believers, we think that we have the ability to forgive like God forgives us. Might sound like, that's wrong thing to say. But we're human. And forgiveness is sometimes a process. Right? Yeah, in our heart, Lord, I want to forgive this person, but I'm deeply offended or I'm deeply hurt. Lord, please help me through this. Now, he will help you. I think wounds, the whole story of wounds heal over time, they don't. They get worse over time. Right? So how do you heal those wounds? You talk about it. You ask for forgiveness. You change your ways. you continue to work at it, you earn the right for that person to say, yes, he's a changed person. Now, in that process, people don't want to work for it either, right? They don't want to earn it back. They don't want to take the hard road, right? I think they want to take an easy road. We're all like that. We want to take a fast road to get back to forgiveness and let's go back to the way we were. It's not like that anymore. There is consequences to sin. There is consequences for mistakes. I mean, that happened to, David in the Bible. He sins with Bathsheba. She gets pregnant, and the prophet Nathan is like, well, your kid's gonna die. He was like, well, I mean, I'm sure David was like, I'm sorry. I asked the Lord for forgiveness. Why is my kid not there? There's sometimes there's consequences to the sin. It was, and I'm not saying that God killed the baby, but sometimes things happen like that. And you're like, well, why did it happen? I asked God for forgiveness. And, this happens again. Sometimes there's things that still continue to happen because of a consequence of sin. If I cheated on you and came and asked for forgiveness, first of all, you would forgive me, but I wouldn't be able to come back in this house. That is a consequence, right? There's things that happen. If I'm, you find something on my phone that shouldn't be there, there is a consequence of that. That's hurtful to my wife. I have to earn her respect back. I think too many times people want us and they throw, well, Jesus forgave you, so why can't you forgive me? And that's true. But we have to remember we're human. We have to remember that it's going to take, earn it back, that process, the trust, right? I always tell everybody, you say that all the time that, oh yeah, but let me tell you something. If I lend somebody money, right, and I give them $50 and they're supposed to pay me back the following week and they don't pay me back, I say, hey man, where's my $50? I'll get it to you. Don't worry about it, brother. Okay. And the following week you ask me for another $50, right? I'm going to be like, okay. And then ask you, hey man, you owe me $100 now, bro. What's up? Oh, bro, you know what? And then he comes back and says, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Don't worry about it, man. It's $100, whatever. If you need it, it's fine. But am I going to lend that guy money again? Probably not, right? Probably not. There's a little bit of a consequence that you didn't pay me back. I forgive you. The $100 is yours, dog. We're good. But I'm probably never going to lend that guy money again. Why? Because I can't.
Yeah.
And that's a human element sometimes with forgiveness. We have to realize, it is a process. What you feel on your heart, it's painful. It sticks in your mind sometimes. The devil could just throw that thought in your mind. Your husband could be, worked his way all the way back, and then all of a sudden the wife gets a thought or a feeling, and then the guy, and she kind of reflects it on the guy, and you're like, hey, I'm doing good now. But that's how the enemy works. So it's not always an easy process. It takes a lot of work to get the forgiveness back.
Yes. And a lot of times the person that did the wrong wants grace, right? They want grace to be forgiven, and they want that grace, and but they're not willing to give that grace in the process of that person's feelings. They're not willing to give the grace time for that person to, it's not easy. When you're the one that had been hurt, it's not an easy thing to just snap out of it. And to be honest, especially with infidelity, I don't care what you say. I don't care who you are. That thing, it doesn't leave you. Even though, yes, we are saved. We love the Lord. God forgives. You forgave. That thing is still there.
It's a deep scar. It's a deep violation.
Yes. And yes, it does heal up. But it's not forgotten. It's not that, you know what I mean, where it's just like years down the line, it doesn't ever pop in your head. Like you said, something can just trigger it, right? And then you'll just have a bad day. And that's how the devil works, And now if that was completely vanished, you would never have, nothing would ever trigger it. Nothing would ever bring up that memory, and I only know this because everyone that I have talked to that has dealt with infidelity, it could be 30 years. And that person, not that they have a bad, terrible marriage or anything like that. They they've come to an agreement to work on their marriage and stuff like that, and they're doing great and they have a great marriage. But there could be times when something would trigger that thought, that, you know, that feeling. And I am sorry, and I said this the last time, the person that did the wrong, you're going to have to give some grace for that person to like get through that day. You know what I mean? Of like, man, you know, like the devil just brought something up in my head, like, you know, and they're going to be in their feels for that day, and they're going to have feelings, you know what I mean? But I think sometimes that person that did the wrong doesn't want to give that grace. And it's just like with God, you know, like I don't think God is looking at that person when something triggered that person after years and years of something. I don't think God's looking at that person saying, "Oh, lad, look at you. Nope, that's not good. You know, you're wrong for that." No, God gives grace for that. God is like, "Hey, it's something that happened." I don't know. I always view God as a person that talks to us like we talk. Like I just feel like God saying, "Hey, you had a rough day today. Something popped in your head, you know what?" And then after that, you just started thinking, the devil started taking your mind different places, right? You know what? Like, be still. It's okay. You know, sometimes the person that was the one that was hurt starts beating themselves up for having a feeling because, oh, I'm saved. I'm not supposed to, it's supposed to be gone, you know, and they start beating themselves up. We've seen that a lot of times in the person that's gotten hurt. And I think it's because we, as believers, have told people that they have no right to have a feeling. Like, no, sorry, you have no right to have a feeling. And then that person always uses that thing that you said is, "Oh, you're supposed to, didn't you forgive me? Oh, you're supposed to forgive like God forgave me. Oh, you know, all this stuff that we always hear." And it's like, no. Like, that's the part where I always say, when there's infidelity, God tells you in his word that you can divorce. And I think God's such a smart God that he tells us that for a reason, because there's people that can't do it.
I agree with that. They can't forgive. And so he gives them an out to say, okay, because you can't get back together because it's just in your face. It's just so hard. If you can't do it, then you're going to have to separate.
I think they can forgive. I just don't think that they can forget.
Very good. That's what I meant.
I think that they just can't forget. So I think that sometimes people say, you know what? I forgive that person. I'm not going to harbor any ugly feelings inside of me. You know what? I'm not going to let my heart get hard. I'm going to I'm going to have a clean heart towards that person, but I can't forget. And I can't, you know, it's too much. And I think some people get told that they're doing something wrong.
Right.
When that happens, you know what I mean?
Well, because they riled them up, and then other people in the church are like, you know, there's great testimonies out there of God's miraculous healing power over marriages that have had issues. Don't get me wrong, you know, infidelity issues, things like that. There's great ones, but I think it has to be a case by case basis.
Yes.
Because we've seen couples get back together and they're miserable.
Yes.
And they're back together because why? Because somebody made them feel guilty, saying, you need to get back married again, and you need to forgive this person, and they harbor these feelings, and the person not giving no grace. He or she is just like, you know, well, you should forgive me, throwing it in their face, or the forgivers constantly throwing it in their face. What good is that? Mm-hmm. That's awful. It's an awful way to live.
Yep. And if people can just be honest, this is the part that I don't understand in us as believers. We're never honest. I guarantee you, if there had been someone that dealt with that, and they, like you said, God was worked in their lives, and their marriage is good, and they're thriving, right, in their marriage. If they can truly just be honest, and maybe someone goes to them and says, "Hey, this happened. I know you dealt with it. You know, how do you deal with it? Or, you know, I'm really hurt. I don't know what to do." If that person tells them, "Well, you need to forgive and you need to forget, and, you know, God's just going to do something in your life and in your marriage, and this is just going to be great, and God's going to get the glory," and all these things, right? Those things are true, but why don't you be honest? And you can say, you know what? It's hard. Even till this day, sometimes I think of it and it messes me up. But you know what? God helps me through it. But I cannot lie to you, and I cannot tell you that there's, that I don't think of it sometimes. Something just will pop up and it takes me there. And you know what? But God helps me through it. And if you are willing to do that and you're willing to deal with that, then I say stay together. But no one's ever that honest to say that. No one's ever, you know what I mean?
It's taboo to say that.
Yeah, and it's like they think like you're turning your back against God or you're going against God's word when you're honest and you say those things.
Even though it's written right there.
Yes. It's like it blows my mind all the time, and it's just like, just be honest, So this person that said, how do I move forward from finding something in my spouse's phone that hurt me? It's not straight out infidelity, but it's a hurtful thing, right? It's something that sometimes, and I've talked about this before, and you got a lot of flack for it the last time. I think like there was a lot of comments saying, when I said that there's sometimes you get so hurt and you put that thing.
Oh, the comments, yeah,
the comments were crazy.
They were going in on you.
They're going in on me. Someone called me a B. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But that cracked me up. And you were like, I'm taking it off. I was like, no, man. Leave it.
Screw
Who
that
cares?
dude, man.
I was like, who cares?
These were all single, weirdos.
I don't care.
On the gram and YouTube. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways. But people got offended and all been out of shape when I said sometimes women, we have that little place in our heart that we put the deepest things, that have to do with our spouse, all the beautiful things that, you can say and we hold it so deep, but then those hurt feelings also stay in there and it doesn't come out that easy. And people freak out, believers freaking out, saying all these things. No, I'm sorry. But that's the way us women are built. And if you're a woman and you say, oh, nothing bothers you, it just rolls off your back, all easy, that is a lie. Quit lying. If we all can just be honest, women, in the realm of being believers, a lot more women will be healed. A lot more women will come and understand and not having to play the part like they're Miss Spiritual and nothing bothers them. No.
Woo-wee.
Oh my gosh.
Man, she's preaching over here. Let's go.
It's just one of those things that I never understand, or you have that person and they never spoke their truth and they never said, hey, I was bothered for many years. Man, this really messed me up, or it still does from time to time, right? So then that everyone thinks that they have to be like that one person. Oh, sister so-and-so, her marriage, they had infidelity, but look at her. She is so spiritual. She's so on fire for God, but that person has never been honest.
Right.
So the next person that happens to thinks that they have to be like her. No, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to how you're made, how God made you. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. It burns inside of me because not a lot of women are able to be honest, and how do you move on from your spouse hurting you? How do you move forward? And all I can truly say is that it is a process. And some things are more hurtful than others, and sometimes your spouse, your husband, and I'm speaking as a woman, if your husband does something that truly hurts you, it's going to take time. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but even though there'll be like years after and you have some great seasons of your marriage, it will pop up again. And it's just that thing of where you have to be like, you know what? It came up, and you have to be honest with your spouse and say, hey, I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling a type of way right now, and I'm feeling it towards you. And what does the husband have to do if your wife tells you that?
He's going to have to give her grace. He's going to have to understand her. He's going to have to swallow that pill. He's going to have to take it on the chin and say, I love you. What can I do?
Yep.
What can I do, love? And if he's been faithful, if he's changed his ways, if he's worked his way back to earn her respect, he's going to want to do whatever it takes. Love her, take care of her. Hey, let's pray. Hey, I'm sorry, love. I love you. He has to just earn it back. It's just the way it goes. I mean, it's to me, I think some men look at it like if it's like this prison or it's like, oh, she's holding this over my head. And there is bad women out there that will throw it in their face and hold it over their head and threaten and do that. But most women are just hurt. They're just hurt. And all you got to do is just try to earn that back a little bit, man, and work your way back. Love her, take care of her, show her that you're a new person. Pray for her, ask God to help you to give her grace during the times where she's looking at you a little different, right? And work on that. If you truly love her, you'll do that. You'll do that. But if you just think like the whole forgive and forget thing needs to happen right now and that's it, let's move on, it's not going to cure the problem. It's going to make it worse. Because what happens is he didn't fix the problem in his life, right? This is the thing too that's not popular to talk about. Shame and consequences of sin are so good, and I think shame, especially for a man, like shame helps us to change our ways. It can make things worse, right? But if you take shame, the shame of sin, the shame of making a mistake, the shame of letting my wife down, that's going to make you want to change. There is some consequences, and shame's a part of that. It's not condemnation. I'm saying like, yeah, I'm ashamed of what I did.
Yes.
I need to fix this. I need to get better. Like when you realize that is a part. I think, if the guy doesn't realize like there's no shame, there's no consequence to the sin, right? Let's brush it on the thing. The wife doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't. Let's go on vacation. Everything's fine. You never fix the problem. Mm-hmm. She's still hurt inside. I don't care what she has on the exterior, right? He's still battling problems on the interior. Mm-hmm. I don't care what's on the exterior, right? He's still battling. He doesn't fix those problems. It doesn't work. So the whole forgive and forget, sweep it on the rug. We're good. We love God. Let's get back into ministry in 3 months, and we're back in business. That doesn't work. Sorry, you got to work on these things. Sorry, there is shame to your sin. You better go and confess to one of your brothers, or you better go confess to your pastor and say, "Hey, I did this." That gets you on track. You got to be broken down to be built back up. Yep. And if you think that you're going to just stay up here and nobody's going to know, it's going to ruin you as a guy. Mm-hmm. And it's going to hurt your wife even more. And whether or not you look good on the gram or whatever like that, that's it's irrelevant. Because when it's late at night, it's just you two, that's where it matters the most. Yep. Boom.
And the reason why she hurts so much is because she loves you that much. If she didn't love you, the hurt would not be there.
Good point.
The hurt would it wouldn't be there, if you know what I mean. But if you have a woman and she's truly hurting on something that you did, it's because she truly loves you. And guess what? God heals her, but you're a part of that healing. And if you're not willing to give her that time, and you're not willing to cover her every single time that she has like some, like a feeling or a time, you're a part of that healing. And if you can at least accept that part, like, you know what, God is going to heal my wife and heal her feelings and heal her broken heart. But you know what? I'm a part of it.
That's big.
And what can I do to be a part of it? Because you have to be working with God on this.
Yeah.
I hope that helps out.
Man. Woo, welcome to the Malisa podcast, man. Dude. Marriage 100 with Malisa Arebalo, man. She's just... When are you going to start your own podcast, man? Let's take this banner down on the back. We'll put your banner up. You know what I mean? Put like flowers and stuff like that. You just talk to the women all day, man. It'd probably blow up.
I'm like a little, not mad at myself, but I'm like a little bit like, I had a breakdown earlier and I didn't think I was going to go there. So I'm like, what was that all about? I don't know what happened, but.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I love you. Are you hungry?
I am.
What are we getting?
Hawaiian barbecue.
Cam's favorite over there?
Yes, sir.
I'm down for some Hawaiian barbecue, man. Definitely.
Yes.
Great podcast.
Love you.
Let me just wrap this up. Everybody out there, if you need help in your marriage, get help. Ask a pastor, ask a couple that you admire, that you look up to, ask them to help you, ask questions, read books, right? There's tons of marriage books out there. But most importantly, be willing to do the work for one another. If you truly love one another, be willing to do the work. And make your foundation, your home, your marriage, the way you raise your children, all that, make it on Jesus. That's the foundation. That's what's going to keep you. That's what's going to encourage you. That's what's going to help you. That's what's going to guide you. So, and if you need help, ask for it. We always say that. Me and Melissa, we do seminars. We do one-on-ones. We talk to couples all the time.
We have one coming up in April. We have a marriage class, and our pastor invites anyone that would like to come.
So in April, it's in the city of Orange County, California. If you would like to attend, it's a 6-week class. We want to invite anybody to come that needs help in their marriage.
Just wants to freshen up, or just reminders. Maybe you don't have to have, problems,
Maybe just build your marriage, get a little stronger, build that foundation, get some new ideas and fresh techniques for your marriage, that maybe you need help with, or you just want to sharpen your marriage.
Yes.
Everybody. Or if you're going to get married.
Yep.
It's good for that too. So if you're thinking of getting married, you can come. But we want to help everybody. So we appreciate everybody out there. No Furious 5 today. You had your chance to maybe.
I really did. I could go off the cuff if you want me to, but
no going off the cuff. Cam's hungry. He's getting upset over there. We said Hawaiian barbecue, and his eyes lit up, and he woke up over there. So we got to get the Hawaiian barbecue.
All right.
I love you.
Love you.
Marriage 100. Check it out, everybody. We love you. Support you. Thank you. We out. Peace.